Hey everyone, Robot here. In this video we'll continue the series of tips to counter medium range killers. And today we'll cover the Trickster and the Executioner, aka Pyramid Head. As I mentioned, these two are part of the list of killers that I've categorized as medium range killers, meaning their power can inflict damage on survivors from a distance, but not across the entire map like Artist and Huntress. We'll cover more medium range killers in future videos. Let's get into it. We'll start with the Trickster. This is a killer whose stereo radius is 32 meters and has a lullaby that can be heard from 44 meters away. He moves at 4.6 meters per second, which is 15% faster than survivors. Trickster's special attack consists of throwing knife blades at survivors. He starts the match with a certain amount of blades, and when he runs out, similar to Huntress, he reloads blades at lockers. When a survivor is hit by 8 blades within a certain amount of time, the survivor loses 1 health state. While Trickster throws blades, he moves at 3.86 meters per second, which is 3.5% slower than survivors. This is also his movement speed while throwing blades during his special ability called Main Event. The way for Trickster to obtain his Main Event ability is by hitting survivors with blades. Each blade hit on survivors fills up his Main Event meter. Once it's full, Trickster can activate Main Event, which will allow him to throw an unlimited amount of blades 66% faster than usual for 6 seconds. You can recognize when he's about to go into Main Event when he does the following animation. Now let's talk counters. 95% of the clips I use in my videos come from public games. However, Trickster got reworked not too long ago and I don't have many clips playing against him since the rework. So you may see clips where the laceration meter requires 6 blades to fill up as opposed to the reworked 8 blades. Nevertheless, the counters I mention here are based on the recent major rework in patches 7.4.0 and 7.4.2. Number 1. Each survivor has a laceration meter in their HUD. Trickster can see it too. The meter starts to fill up when you get hit with blades. Remember I mentioned that you lose a health state if Trickster hits you with 8 blades within a certain amount of time? Well, that's because if you get hit with some blades, but then you manage to avoid getting hit by another blade within 15 seconds, your meter starts to decay and it can reset all the way back to 0 within a short period of time. This being the case, and similar to other ranged killers, try to force him to chase you around tall structures, so he can't throw knives over them. Loops with short structures will allow him to throw knives at you over those structures and quickly fill up your meter, so try to avoid those if you can. Also keep in mind that he's a short killer, so it'll be more difficult to keep track of his pathing around tiles with those structures. Practice your check spots to keep track of him as much as you can to try to get your laceration meter to reset. Number 2. This is a common counter against all ranged killers, and that is break line of sight and put structures between you and Trickster to avoid his blades while running away from him. Number 3. If you're caught out in the open, you can zigzag to try to avoid his blades. Make sure your zigzag pattern is random to try to make it harder for him to land the blade hits. Similar to the tips I shared for Slinger, don't zigzag until you see him pull up his blades because zigzagging before this will allow him to gain distance on you. Number 4. Respect his lullaby. Anytime you hear his lullaby, look around for him and assess if you need to start moving towards a tall structure or just gain distance on him. He has no cooldown if he takes a health state with a blade, so he can easily take 2 health states quickly. Of course, respect the terror radius as well, but in case Trickster is undetectable, meaning he hides his terror radius by the use of perks, his lullaby will be a better indicator that he's coming to you. You'll hear his lullaby's volume changes depending on how far you are from him. And I'll give you a bonus tip. Trickster can throw about 3 blades per second and he only needs 8 to get you to lose a health state. This makes him a really good hook camper. For this reason, if you decide to unhook a teammate that's being camped, keep in mind he can easily get you to lose both health states quickly, which may end up putting a lot of pressure on survivors while trying to play altruistically. Keep this in mind if you decide to help camp teammates. Next, we'll cover the Executioner, aka Pyramid Head. This is a killer whose stereo radius is 32 meters and his movement speed, base kit, is 4.6 meters per second, which is 15% faster than survivors. Pyramid Head has two alternate movement speeds. When he sets down his weapon while moving forward in preparation to set his Torment Trail, he moves at 3.68 meters per second, which is 8% slower than survivors. And when he's actually setting his Torment Trail after he's set his weapon into the ground, he moves at 4.4 meters per second, which is 10% faster than survivors. Pyramid Head's special power consists of a couple of things. He can set Torment Trail on the ground, which gives him Killer Instinct when survivors walk or run over it, and it will also afflict survivors with Torment. More on this in a moment. Also, while he has his weapon on the ground, he activates his Rites of Judgment special ability. Once charged, he can release it, sending a fast wave through the ground that looks like a trail. This is called Punishment of the Damned. Base kit, the range of the wave is 8 meters, but he has add-ons that can extend it. If survivors come into contact with the trail sent by the Punishment of the Damned, they will lose 1 health stick. Now let's talk counters. Number 1. If survivors are put in the dying state while afflicted with Torment, Pyramid Head has the option of sending them to a Cage of Atonement, instead of hooking them. However, if they are on Death Hook and afflicted with Torment, Pyramid Head can kill them on the spot once they're in the dying state. This is called Final Judgment. Keeping this in mind, there's 2 things survivors can do to avoid or remove Torment. A. To avoid becoming afflicted with Torment, survivors can crouch walk over the Torment Trail. I don't recommend avoiding walking or running over it while you're in a chase. Prioritize keeping your distance from him instead of avoiding the trail. I've seen survivors do this, allowing Pyramid Head to gain distance on them. Only do this if you're not pressed for time to complete an action like unhooking before someone goes to second stage or dies, or while not in a chase. B. A survivor afflicted with Torment can remove it by rescuing another survivor from a Cage of Atonement. For this reason, if you see a survivor is sent to a Cage of Atonement and you're afflicted with Torment, try to rescue them so you remove Torment off of you. Also, if a teammate is afflicted with Torment and you are not, and there is someone else in a Cage of Atonement, allow a bit of time for the survivor with Torment to perform the rescue so they can remove the Torment off of them. Use the HUD to your advantage to identify when someone is in a Cage of Atonement or if someone is afflicted with Torment. If Pyramid Head sends a survivor afflicted with Torment to a Cage of Atonement, it removes the Torment off of that survivor. Try to say that 20 times in a row fast without making a mistake. The next tips will be related to chase. Number 2. Since Pyramid Head's special ability sends a trail through the ground, his power can go under structures and reach survivors even without direct line of sight. However, breaking line of sight is still helpful since Pyramid Head will have to guess where to send his power. For this reason, break line of sight whenever you can and be unpredictable with your pathing to avoid getting hit with his power. He also has a sound cue that lets you know when he has set down his weapon to charge his ability, and another sound cue when he releases it. Number 3. Pyramid Head can easily close down tiles, so as with other range killers, keeping distance from him is very helpful. Number 4. Once you make it to an area where you can't keep running away from him and he's gained distance on you, and you need to loop him, pay attention to when he starts charging his Punishment of the Damned ability to see if you can move away at the right time to avoid it. Pyramid Head has limited movement while holding his ability, and he can only send his range power in the direction his weapon is facing. Keep track of where his weapon is facing to try to avoid getting hit. Also keep in mind that he doesn't need to be moving forward to use his power. He can set down his weapon and almost immediately send his wave of Punishment of the Damned, which may catch survivors by surprise. And there's also Pyramid Head players that just randomly do 360s to try to confuse survivors and hope for a lucky hit. Whatever the case may be, the goal is to stay alive as long as you can to waste as much of his time as possible. Number 5. Another counter against his power are holes and stairs. His power cannot travel through openings in the ground, so if you can loop around these areas, he'll be forced to use his basic attack. Also, his power cannot go up stairs, only down the stairs. Number 6. Whenever you're trying to take hits for your teammates, be careful if he attempts to use his power because it can inflict damage on multiple survivors at a time and are in the path of the wave. If you play altruistically, trying to take protection hits, try to body block instead and move away when Pyramid Head uses his power. And I'll give you a couple of bonus tips related to his Cage of Atonement. If Pyramid Head stays within 10 meters of a Cage of Atonement and remains there for 3.5 seconds, the cage will actually move to another area of the map, far from where it originally was. And the entity sacrifice progression on the cage survivor will pause for 10 seconds. allowing for teammates to get to the new cage location to rescue. The other tip is that Cages of Atonement negate perks that activate with hook actions for Pyramid Head and on-hook actions for survivors. For example, if you have Deliverance active and you're sent to a Cage of Atonement, you won't be able to use it. Reassurance, Aftercare, to name a few other examples, do not activate with Cages of Atonement. On the other hand, Pop Goes the Weasel, Pain Res, and any other perks that activate with hooking a survivor do not activate if Pyramid Head sends a survivor to a Cage of Atonement. If you'd like to be notified when I upload my next video, you can subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to watch more videos with tips and gameplay, you can click on the thumbnails on the left hand side of your screen. Thank you to my friends Demari and Rachel for their help creating this video, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you on the next one.